That's an easy answer.
Right. All right. And we are recording. All right. So, hey, everybody. We decided that the interviews with JD that we did went so well recently that much like we did when we interviewed Jose, people had questions, things that they wanted to make sure that JD was covering that we didn't get a chance to touch on in the initial interview. And so JD was kind enough to come back and do a second round of questioning, just kind of sort of quickly touching on some of the things that people in particular wanted to know about. Some of these are people that actually know JD, so they asked questions like, why do the Kentucky Wildcats suck? Which the answer is, JD?
They don't.
Well, there you go. Some people also wanted to know if you still only drive American-made cars.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So there you go.
As long as I can, yeah. It gets harder every day.
Well, so there you go. But we do have some legitimate kind of insurance type questions. So we'll kind of, you've got the list there, JD, but we'll kind of just go straight down the list. There's a gentleman who goes by Wino Blues on the insurance form, who asked a question that I thought was pretty good, which says, with over 1,000 clients, which is, I'm sure you actually have well more than that at this point, how do you manage to handle doing your routine service work, things like beneficiary changes, bank updates, making sure you're fielding coverage and billing questions? Do you refer people to the home office? Do you mail them forms? Do you go out to see them? How do you manage that? Because that's probably a fairly substantial amount of work at this point, now that you've got as many.
Oh yes, it is. But I look at it different as being it's work. But to me, and I've told you this before, it's also very rewarding work, because I've said it a lot of times. There's gold in service work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I handle it however I need to. If it depends on how I find out. Like today, I found out that a client has changed bank, and he also needs to change his beneficiary, going through a divorce. So I'm going to, and actually it's a company I don't write anymore, and haven't written in years. So I don't have a bank change form for that company, and do not have a beneficiary change form for that company. But I'm going to contact him first thing in the morning. I was just getting his file out here before we got on this. I'll contact the company in the morning and have them, if they will, email me a bank change form and a beneficiary change form, and then I'll get that to him and take care of it.
And when you say get that to him, you mean you actually will go see him, sit down with him, get him the forms?
Yes. Yeah. In that case, and yeah, it just depends. Sometimes I will mail them to people with a self-addressed stamped envelope, return envelope to me with sign here markers, to send it back to me. If I'm going to be in a person's area, I normally like to handle those in person, because if you handle them in person, there's also many, many times a lot of business there. Hey, while you're here.
Right, yeah. Hey, I realized, I don't think this is enough.
Keeping on changing that. And actually, this guy, we're going to look at, and actually, it's actually quite old policy. It's a term policy. And that's what I asked him. If he's got $150,000, I believe it is. And I even asked him that today. Do you still need that much coverage?
Right.
Or, if not, we can either.
Your microphone went funny there for a second. Say that again. Right. Hang on. I don't know if it's we're having a technical issue here. You suddenly sound like you're underwater with your microphone. You were clear as a bell, and then I don't know what happened, but now you sound like you're coming from deep below the ocean.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, now that's better. So I don't know. I don't know what the difference was.
No, like I said, we'll look and see if the term is still suitable for him.
Right.
And if it is, we'll just do the service work, update his beneficiary address, also an address change, and just do all that. And there may not be any new business there now on that one, but there may be in the future. But normally, if I'm going to be working in an area, like I just did one a month ago, an address change for a lady, and she had called me, but just so happened I was going to be in that area the next day. So I went by her house with an address change form, and had her sign it, fax it to the company. Bank changes a little different, but normally the way I find out about a bank change is I get an NSF notice from a company.
Right.
Or account closed.
Right.
You know, the majority of those, I don't get the info from the client. I get it from the company. And but I contact every one of those. If any NSF, any bank closed, I contact the clients. Most of the time on an NSF, when I'm contacting the person, they don't even know yet. You know, I'm contacting them before they've got notice from the company that their payment didn't go through. Well, I shouldn't say they don't know. Many times when you call them, I was afraid of that.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And if it's a different way to handle it, whether it was just not enough money in there versus was there an account? Did they change accounts?
Right.
And so it's a different conversation. If they change accounts, I will help them get the account updated with the company. And like I said, however I need to. If I'm going to be in the area, I prefer to do those in person. If not, I'll do it by mail. Some companies allow you to do it as a three-way call.
Okay.
And update. Some companies don't even require that.
Right. No.
Trinity Family Benefit.
Yeah, just
you can get the info from the client, email it to the company, and they update it for you.
Yeah. No.
Some companies won't do that. Won't do it that way.
A lot of companies won't do it that way, but that is a benefit of working with them. Is they're very easy with that kind of stuff happens.
We've got another company that I have that has become quite in disfavor with me. That won't allow me to service my clients.
Oh, that's weird.
And I'm still active with the company. And not just me, they won't allow any agent to service their clients. And they won't, they'll like an address change. I just contacted them recently for an address change on a client. Up the address. They get through all that and then they say, okay, is the client on the line with you? No.
Right.
Oh, well, we're going to have to talk to him. And I can't update the address for you. He doesn't have any minutes on his phone, is why he told me. And he does have a new phone number. That they would not allow me to give them. Why wouldn't they even want it? You would think they'd be thanking you. Thank you.
Right.
We would like to contact him. And,
yeah.
And it's the same company will not give cash values to the agent unless the client is on the phone too.
Yeah.
And then they'll even ask the client when you have them on the phone, is it okay do you give permission to disclose that with John on the line? That's just a company that just seems like they're trying to put.
Yeah.
Very, very active business prevention department.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, well, I mean, and
it really pisses the client off too.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that it's hard to know about. It's hard to find that stuff out about a company before you start working with them, and it's always sort of unfortunate when that ends up turning out to be the case, because it really does make it hard to work with them and makes it hard to do what you need to keep your business on the books because you care more about it than they do.
Yeah. Speaking in the terms of like the service work, that is more of my service work than address changes, bank changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you know, in our market, the vast majority are getting, if they're not full Medicaid, are getting extra help of some type. There's some type of LIS. If not any LIS, they may be getting housing help, or something HUD, something some kind of assistance.
Yeah.
Well, cash value is a countable asset that has to be reported on those things, and so that is the far and away my biggest service issue, and so getting the cash value for people is very important to me.
Yeah, critically important.
And and I handle those, and I probably get more, and that's going into some of the other questions. I probably get the vast majority of my referrals from doing that service work on that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I've got a relationship with most of the caseworkers in the tri-state region, Kentucky, West Kentucky, Southern Indiana, Northwest Tennessee. I know most of if I don't know them personally, I know their name and they know me.
Right. See, that's interesting.
And they, and I will fax the info for them, because it takes the company, even the companies that are really good at it, that will send the information to the person. You're talking a week, if they're very quick.
Right.
A week to 2 weeks to actually get that info. Well, we don't have that luxury, as you know.
Yeah, they need the money, they need the information, and they need it yesterday, or they're losing their benefits.
They'll call you saying, John, I got to have, of course, I always call you in a panic.
Right.
And it's really complicated to them. And I don't worry about it. I know what they want. They're talking about that. No, they're not. They're not talking about your cash. They want to know about the cash value. I know exactly what they want.
Yeah.
I do this all the time. And I will draft a letter that every caseworker that I deal with in this area is okay with, versus having the actual from the company. And I always put in the letter that we've asked the company that it may be 2 weeks.
Right.
Hopefully this suffices until then. And and actually a lot of times they don't even want the policy, because if you're looking at the policy, as you know, it's the year-end values.
Right. And usually they want it around July.
At that case office, they want, how much can they go get out of this policy today?
Right. Yeah.
And they, and it's not a big deal. Some of the caseworkers make it a bigger deal than it is. You just got to do it.
Yeah. No, and you're right. It's not a hard thing to do, but it's a thing.
You just keep it. But our folks put it off like they do everything. So they'll call and they'll say, I got to have it. Okay, when do you need it? Sometimes I get the luxury of saying tomorrow.
Right. Usually it's like, I'm down with my caseworker right now. Can you fax it?
Many times it's today or so. Yeah, I do get those calls.
Yeah.
When they're in the office. And if I get those when I'm near my office, it's really okay, because then I'll have it to you in 5 minutes.
Right.
Of course, you're on the road many times.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the caseworker and say, look, if I get that to you this evening when I get in, is that going to be okay? And like I said, since I know most of them now, they know me, that they'll say, yeah, it's fine. Here's the fax number. Here's the case number. Fax that to me when you can. Apartments are the same way. Got a lot of our folks living in rent control. And when they do your annual review, whether they're going to get their rent raised or not, they need that.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not a big deal. I've never had one give me any pushback on it. Actually, they're happy that you're doing it quick for them because they get to check that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to
Yeah.
spend
Then they're done.
They don't want to spend any more time on it either.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's what I do, and I take care of those, and you know, it all starts in the beginning. You know, I deliver my policies. I tell people to contact me. When I send everyone a thank you card after a write, and I put that in the card. That's the put in a call anytime. And I've told them that up front. Anything that comes up, you know. So, you know, a lot of agents don't want that. You know, I remember with another IMO several years ago, we were talking about this very same thing. And an agent, a lady in the Northeast, was saying, "You give them your phone number?" I give them my phone number. I give them the number to the company. And, yes, I give them my number because I don't want them to call the company. I want them to call me.
Right.
She's, well, I don't want them to call me. That's fine. You know, that's she's not wrong, I'm guessing, what she's doing. And you know, many times I wish maybe I'd have done it a different way, but this is how I do. And yeah, it's a lot of trouble and sometimes, but like I said, it is rewarding. I mean, if I never got additional business out of it, I may have gravitated to saying, you need to call the company about that.
Right.
But I've learned over the years that I get a lot of business on that. And I get a lot of business, not just on referrals. Actually, they're indirect referrals on what I was saying about helping people with that, especially at those caseworkers. Because all those folks pretty much getting help, they all seem to know each other. And they'll sit around in those waiting rooms and they're complaining to each other about, you know, they're making me do this, they're making me do that. And then you have, well, my agent takes care of that for me.
Right.
Well, who's your agent?
Right.
And I get calls like that. And they'll say, hey, Mary told me that you help her with her. You know. And
yeah.
So, and you know, it leads to business, you know, and also it leads to not just new business, it tends to lead to persistency.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, that makes
that person,
a ton of sense.
It does. I mean, I don't have any hard data to support that, but I mean, I've got imperial experience that tells me that you know, if you're taking care of that, you know, our people are going to mail in cards, and they're going to see other agents. You know, they're going to cheat on you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Now, but if I'm taking care of that person's paperwork for them at their annual review, you know, how likely are they going to be to ditch me?
Yeah, not very.
For another agent. No, I'm not saying that they won't, you know, because many times they'll think that same agent is going to do, that new agent is going to do what I've been doing. And I have had those that people come, hey, you know, you used to help me with this. And they was doing it, and you know, it's fun. I had one accidentally this week. It was a lady that she seemed familiar. I asked her, have I talked to you before? No, I don't think so. And actually, it was the lady I contacted you about that lasso thing.
Oh yeah.
And so when I got in that evening, and I was kept thinking, I went through my file. I actually wrote that lady 10 years ago.
Huh.
And she lapsed the policy after a few months, and came to find out she went with another agent, and she lapsed too. And
of course.
And she was saying, yeah, you had, and I had referred her at the time. Actually, it was back long enough ago. I was still doing Medicare Advantage plans, and I had actually put her in a Medicare Advantage plan. at the time, and I lost her as a client then because I either put her with WellCare or Coventry.
Mm-hmm.
Both left the area in
Right.
2009. And she said, and that's what she was saying. She was telling me she was on a real good Medicare Advantage plan before. And she said, I hadn't had one in years. You know, and that was what happened. When they left the area, she didn't pick up a new.
Right.
And she's been without now for 10 years. And that's why she doesn't have one now.
Right.
We were talking about this last old thing that maybe she could get that, but I don't know if that's going to work either. But
no, yeah, it's looking like that's probably not going to work. Yeah.
And the thing about it, I was seeing her this time from a lead.
Interesting.
And
so she just sent another lead in.
When I wrote her 10 years ago, she was a referral. And I ain't called her back. After I realized that, I ended up calling her back. I was like, do you remember that I wrote you? She said, no, but it seems kind of familiar. And then I told her that you were referred to me by Donald. She said, yeah, oh, yeah. Well, he's still a friend of mine. I said, well, he's still a client of mine, too. I said, he referred to you, and I gave him a gift card.
Right.
For referring.
That's so funny.
But this time she mailed in a card. And so, like I said, but that's our people.
Yeah, no, I mean that's how it works, and that's the stuff that you got. I mean, this is what we were talking about on the last time we talked was, with client loyalty and stuff. I mean, there's only so much loyalty that you should really be expecting, and you do what you can above and beyond that, but they're going to send in cards. It's just what they do. That's why they sent in the card in the first place, was because that's what they do.
Right.
But that
answer that question. That's how
that answered that question and the second question, which is I think how you get referrals and get additional coverage and work your book of business.
I did not ask for referrals. I wouldn't say I've never asked, because I'm sure I was told 16 years ago that you're supposed to ask in every home. And
collect 5 referrals from every person you meet, right?
Yeah. I learned many years ago that that's a quick way to lose a friend, is sending an insurance agent over to see them.
Yeah.
Because even if you do it and they give you and you go to them, no, I don't want to talk to you. And the first thing they do, that friend, when they see them, the hell did you send that guy over here for?
Yep.
And so I don't do that. I don't ask for a referral. I do give a restaurant gift card for referrals, but I don't tell people that up front either, unless it comes up.
Right.
When I'm there, if it comes up, and it does sometimes, when you're talking to them and they say, hey, well, you know what? This might be good for my brother.
Right.
But I don't call, even on those cases, I don't call the person. I don't say, okay, what's your brother's name and what's his number? I don't do that. I tell them, give your brother my number. But then I will mention that, hey, we're not allowed to give money for referrals, and we're not allowed to give a gift over a certain amount, or anything. And so, what's your favorite restaurant? If they tell me, so I give people a gift certificate to their favorite restaurant, rather than giving you a money clip or a coffee cup or some junk that you'll never use. And of course, that breeds referrals once they get one.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I just give one to a person.
Right. No, yeah.
You get that gift card, they start sending you, more and more. And then the person referred will also send you to,
because they know that their friend got the gift card, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but sometimes they don't tell them that, and it's. I had one lady, she's passed away now, that she was in a rent controlled apartment complex, and this was a huge place, maybe 500-600 apartments at this place in Evansville, Indiana, and they had a name, all those places have different names. Like in Owensboro was the Roosevelt House, and I don't
Yeah.
know what the name of this place was, but I called her like if it was the Roosevelt House, I called this lady the mayor. There's one of those people in every one of them that kind of runs the show, and everybody in the building knows.
Yep.
Well, it just so happened she was a client, and
Nice.
and she referred me, but she would call. She liked Golden Corral. That's what it's called here, It's the Golden Corral. But she would even call before she would get the referral and say, "John, you still give them gift cards to Golden Corral?"
Nice.
I guess if I'd have said no, she's gonna call somebody else. But there's no telling how many people she referred over the year, and that started with her back in the Medicare Advantage business too.
Huh.
She was a Medicare Advantage client before she was ever a life insurance client, and so she sent me a lot of those, and especially when I was doing the Medicare Advantage, was big in Medicare Advantage. Of course, I was doing a lot of the dual eligible, and all those folks know each other.
Yeah.
And you're getting a ton of referrals on those, and I had a really good plan for the dual eligibles, and but that's how. Of course, she's passed away now, so I don't get hardly anything in that building anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't work Indiana much anymore either. That's I used to couldn't get leads in Kentucky with another IMO for some reason, and once I went to FX, I get almost all my leads in Kentucky instead of Indiana, and then they've got of course David Brown.
Sure.
He's working most of my old stomping grounds now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, doing the Evansville stuff. Yeah.
And he runs into a lot of my clients. David does.
It is unfortunate to be working in the same area that you used to work in.
But say back in with the prior IMO I was with, I'm going to say 70% of my business was in Indiana.
Oh wow!
And just because that's where the leads were.
Yeah.
They really complained about they couldn't get leads in Kentucky and area, and so. I mean, and I'm 45 minutes to the Indiana line, so it's not like I'm traveling.
It's not, yeah.
No.
But I mean, Kentucky is one of those states that has a reputation for being very difficult to do final expense in. It does not seem to have ever been a problem for you, which I know isn't one of the questions that we've got here, but it's.
No, I've got quite a few competitors, and
yeah,
doing okay too. And there's a large IMO, final expense IMO, about 100. As the crow flies, 100 miles, probably 130 miles to drive there.
Yeah.
Kentucky doesn't seem to bother them either.
No.
Quite a few agents, and they come down to this area a lot. I don't know why they're having to travel that far, and they're Louisville, Kentucky would be their natural market, which is 150 miles from me.
Huh.
I run into those agents down here, and like I said, I'm 150 miles from Louisville, but I'll run in, and Louisville is east of me, but I'll run into those agents from that area 60 and 70 miles west of here. So they're driving over 200 miles one way, and a time change. Louisville's on Eastern time, we're on Central, and that's something. Of course, Scott and I, Travis and I, we've all talked about that over years. These guys coming into different areas, and agents from the area going somewhere else.
Yeah,
each other on the highway.
That's right.
I mean, how many final expense homes do those guys drive by?
Oh gosh, hundreds, right? Driving hours and hours away to go someplace else.
And like I said, I've been working the same counties for 16 years, and I'm not out of people.
Yeah.
And
I mean, do you ever drive more than like an hour 15 minutes one way to go?
No, that's about it. 75 miles would be a really long trip for me.
Yeah.
several years ago, when I was a termite, um, I had to drive even more than I do final expense. And Paducah, and I kind of like working in the Paducah, Kentucky area. That's 90 miles from me. And Murray, Kentucky is almost 100. And I was having to work those areas then for them to get me leads. And I like those areas. I don't mind working there other than
Sure.
the drive. But I don't get leads there now. I would if I needed them.
Right, but if you don't need them, you
I don't
don't.
even think that we have an agent now. We had an agent in extreme Northwest Tennessee that was working, to him, working in that part of Kentucky would be like, it's like me working Evansville, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And he was working leads there, and Murray, Kentucky to Paducah, Kentucky. And you probably know who I'm talking about. The guy, he was a top agent with us, but he's decided he wants to do something else, and maybe even phone sale. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to David in quite a while, and so
yeah,
I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, but he was he had a lot. I think David had a lot of health problems too. About and it was hard for him to run 6, 7, 8, 10 appointments in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I never met him in person, but I was told that he was really, really big guy.
Yeah.
and
yeah, I mean,
like 400 pounds maybe.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, your health. It can be, and this might actually make for a decent segue to the next question. I mean, it can be difficult, like health-wise, to do like a 6 or 7 appointment day if you're not in decently good shape. And so because of that, lots and lots of people I'm seeing, it's very popular right now for people to be exploring final expense telesales options, trying to become an independent final expense telesales agent. Seems to be that people are hooking up with one of a couple of different IMOs that are pushing final expense telesales, and the IMOs that are popular kind of keep circling through, and every 6 to 9 months a new one pops up that's the best final expense IMO since sliced bread. North Star is obviously been around and continues to be around and does their own thing,
but they seem to have it figured out.
Yeah, and they're doing their own totally different thing. But there's a lot of people who are setting up final expense telesales shops that are claiming to run it very much exactly like an independent face-to-face salesperson runs it. And people want to know what your thoughts on that are. I've expressed my thoughts on that on this channel.
Those don't seem to stick around very long.
They don't, do
they? And no, there's places that that seem to have it figured out. North Star seems to have it figured out.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on them. I don't really know. Just what I read, what I see, the people I know, and you can tell when you listen to people whether they got figured out or not.
Yeah.
Nope. You've been in this doing long enough. And you can tell by the questions people ask if they've got it figured out. Almost. And
you've gone back underwater on us, JD. Hang on. I don't know if something touched your microphone or what, but no, not yet. Play. Is that sounds like it's not static anymore. Try now. Okay, you're better.
Yeah, I don't know. Might be something here. We have to sunshine into Kentucky sometimes, so maybe these waves are crossing. But Jeff Root's group seemed to have it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, not an expert on what they do either.
No. I know a couple of people who were working over at Jeff Root's group, and it sounds like
they got that one guy that supposedly did $1 million himself, and it's unbelievable. And, but he says it's unbelievable too.
Right.
And he wouldn't believe it either if somebody told him.
Yeah.
And I read a really long explanation that he gave about what he does, how he works. He calls them, he doesn't really call it leads. I'm forgetting what he called it now. Request for application, I guess, that's not exactly what he said, but that's what he works. But anyway, his explanation is very believable.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what he's doing. And I certainly couldn't replicate it. But the explanation he gave seems believable for him. Now, can somebody else do that? I don't know.
Right. The question of how replicable
Do
it
that,
is.
I probably would be doing that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if it was easy for everybody to go out and write $1 million a year just sitting at home on the phone, I don't see why anybody wouldn't be doing that. But
So
we did have Ramis from North Star do an interview with us, which isn't up yet, but which would be coming up pretty soon, where he talks about why telesales isn't really what you think it is. And I thought it was actually really interesting. He was pretty candid about, like, if you are planning on getting into final expense telesales because you want to work from your pajamas in your living room for like 3 to 4 hours a day in your off time, you're going to fail and you shouldn't be doing it. Go find a different job.
well, I agree. I mean, you don't have to have genius on stuff to figure that out.
No.
It doesn't matter. Even what we do, and you and I being at the same IMO, and we're pretty sure that they have it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no easy button.
No.
That's either.
No. I mean, it's not complicated, but it's not easy.
And if they're looking for the easy button, and they think that it's easy to set at home on the phone, which to me, I couldn't stand to do that.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to do it anyway, even if they get it all figured out.
Yeah.
No, that's not for me. To set.
No, it would drive me nuts being changed to a desk and a phone all day. I couldn't.
But for somebody to say that he only deals with people who are calling you to ask you to fill out their application form, that's a little different.
It is.
I'm not gonna get used to that.
Right, you're just answering inbounds.
Applications for the day. I'll stop and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, just write them up. Yeah, no, I had Scott call me up and say that with a lead for somebody who had called him, who had been with an FEX agent who was no longer in the business and not licensed anymore, and they called up to add additional coverage. So they ended up getting Scott, and Scott sent him to me, and I was the closest agent, but they were still like a 3-hour drive from me. Right. So I did it as a telesales thing, and hey, that was great. I called them up. They already knew they wanted additional coverage. They knew how much they wanted to spend on the additional coverage. The whole thing took like 20 minutes, including like everything. And I suppose I would take inbound calls like that all day long.
Oh yeah, and I do those. We've got an agent out in California that's gone to that. He's not really. I don't know if he's really. I'm not sure exactly what his model is. But he sent me a lady this summer in Indiana. He wasn't licensed in Indiana, but she was up there in Indianapolis, which is a 3.5-hour drive for me. I did that one all by phone. Pretty simple. She knew what she wanted. She'd already talked to him, told him. Mm-hmm. He could have wrote, if he had been licensed there, he would have already written it.
Yeah.
And then we had an agent in Eastern Kentucky that wrote a lady 3 or 4 years ago, and she wanted to add to her coverage. And he's still licensed in Kentucky, but he's actually moved to Florida now. And
right.
And he sent her info to me and said, "Hey, if you'll take care of this for me." So I did that one by phone and mail. And So it's not saying I don't do some.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. And but I still, I mean, I prefer, just like I prefer the service work in person.
Hmm.
I prefer to meet with if that lady, she had a $7,000 policy wanting to make it 10, and she was a 3.5 hour one-way drive to me. Even though I prefer to meet in person, no, I'm not doing 7 hours.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
to write
Yeah.
that. And but they, of course, I get a lot of. I love to go into a home where they have bought by phone.
Yeah. No,
Those
absolutely.
are pretty easy replacements.
You usually, they don't have any real relationship with their agent. They don't really know what they got. It's often not at all what they think they have.
Now, maybe there's a ton of them out there that bought by phone that we're not seeing, and they're happy with what they got, and we don't see it.
No, absolutely could be. Although I will tell you, I saw a lady on Tuesday this past week who I went to her house, and she had 3 Lincoln Heritage policies and 5, I want to say, Physicians Mutual policies that she purchased over the phone. And I showed up, and her daughter was like, my mom just keeps filling out these cards and answering the phone and buying from everybody who walks in the door, and I don't know why she's doing this. And she was spending like almost $500 a month for like $30,000 worth of coverage. And her daughter was like, she doesn't need all this coverage, and I don't want her to have all this coverage, and let's just cancel everything with this one $5,000 policy. That's plenty. That's all she needs. She just wants to be cremated, and or if you can have $75,000 for like the same amount of money that she's paying right now, which she can clearly afford. And her daughter's like, no, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
And she's the beneficiary, I'm assuming.
Yes, she's the sole beneficiary. She has 6 other brothers, but she's the only beneficiary.
It makes a little difference when they're the beneficiary.
Yeah.
But Scott said that years ago about the people who make those bad choices. They'll make a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And he's right on that. You'll go into a home, they've got a Colonial Penn, they've got a Lincoln Heritage, they've got a Banker's Life, they've got Physicians Mutual, and they're still paying on all of them.
Yeah.
And they don't just buy from one bad,
No. I mean, and coming back around on the service work that you were talking about, a lot of times I'll go back to do service work and find that, in addition to the policy that I sold them a year or 2 ago, they've also bought a Banker's Life and a Colonial Penn and a Lincoln Heritage since then. Right. And it's like,
that's why I tell them, you've been cheating on me?
Yeah.
Let's fix this. And there's money there too. And it's funny but that's just, that's why a lot of people cannot do this market. Because they just don't get it. They don't understand. If that frustrates you, you're not going to be long in this business.
No.
And it's the same when agents are complaining. Well, this person said, I had a lead on this person 3 months ago. Yep. You said that too. You're going to have that happen all the time. And it's, they're world-class procrastinators. Mm. They didn't get to be this age of, 65 to 70 and not have their funerals taken care of because they planned.
Right.
They've been good with their money. Most of them are pretty street smart.
Right.
If you make a mistake of thinking they're dumb, and
they're not dumb.
And the agents I see that get into this business and they look down on our clientele, they're not long for this either.
Yeah. No. I mean, if you don't have the respect for who the clients are and recognize that they are street smart, they're not stupid. Their priorities are just different than what you think that our priorities would be. And they're procrastinators, and they put off. Well,
you'll see that a lot too. You'll see an agent get into the business that's really complaining about the clientele.
That's never good.
but they will write a ton of business
Hmm.
for a while. And then the next thing you see their picture on a milk carton, you don't know what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
the person who talked me into doing final expense, and I ended up signing up with Fex instead of his agency for a variety of reasons. But he was doing really well. He was writing a bunch of business, but he would call me periodically and be like, "Man, I just can't take these people. Like this is just the worst clientele. They're mean and they're rude, and I don't like them." And he's not doing this anymore. I don't know what he's doing, but he wrote like a couple $100,000 for in his 1 year of doing final expense, and then he moved on and he's doing something else now. What you gonna do? All right. So the last question, which I don't know how much there is to go into it, or if this is going to be a long thing on its own, or if this is going to be pretty quick. But people, well, actually, you know what? Before we get to the last question, I missed one from David Day, who wants to know, are you really only running like 10 leads a week? And if so, how do you manage to make that work?
Well, actually 15. I get
15? All right.
And which is more than I want, but it, well, like I said, because of it all goes together, from the start, that if all of my business were to come from my leads, I probably don't have enough leads. So, but a lot of my business doesn't come from my leads. Well, it all comes from my leads. 99% of my business comes from my leads, even though a lot of it is referral.
It's still coming from the lead.
But I met that first person that referred me from a lead.
Right.
I get very few referrals from people that I didn't already sell to.
Right.
Not unless they're family.
Right.
And but it all came from there, and it all works together. But then too, the longer you've been in this business, as you know, you've been in it long enough. Now you're starting to see the same thing. Mm-hmm. You're getting those calls, and you're getting. And I'll have agents, on our group meeting. Mm-hmm. Will come on there and start saying after they've been in the business 3 or 4 years, they say, "Man, I'm getting these calls now, like JD's been talking about."
Right.
I was thinking, that's a bunch of crap. You don't get those.
Yeah. No, you definitely do that.
And then now later on they say, I'm getting those calls now too.
Yeah.
I'm getting that, and it's so. And like I said, I sold a bunch of term policies, 16 and 15 years ago, and a lot of those are terming out. And mm-hmm. I just wrote one last month, the 15-year term was running out. Now it's renewable to age 95.
Sure.
Sold it to him when he was 65, and he's 80 now, and it was going from 100, and he can keep it, but it's going from 125 a month to 1,200 a month.
It's expensive
this year, yep. But now he doesn't need 125,000, I think it is. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need that now. And so we wrote him a $25,000 whole life, right at the same price that he was paying for the mm-hmm. for the term, and he's good with that. And he's not out any more money per month.
He's got what he needs.
He's got a lot less. And but he called me, mm-hmm. and. Still had my number 15 years later.
Nice. That's always good.
And so, so you get that kind of business. So that's a right that I got that, well, you would say that came because he's getting 15 leads a week. Well, no, it came because I wrote him 15 years ago.
Right. And time stacks up on you like that.
Oh yeah. Like when he first called me, I was on the road today. He called me. He was talking about his policy and going on. I said, well, was that a 10-year? He said, yeah, I think it was 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, and I said, well, 10 years went by fast, didn't it? He said, sure did. But then when I got in and got his file out, it was 15.
See? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, and the thing about it was he was really healthy. He did an exam. He got preferred 15
Nice.
years ago. And he's getting referred. I did him fully underwritten whole life.
Mm-hmm.
He's not getting preferred because at 25,000 they don't have preferred.
No. Right.
But he's fully underwritten, healthy.
Yeah, he's getting regular standard rates, and
15 years later, he's still
in good shape.
And that's why he wanted to go ahead and get him whole life now too.
Yeah.
Well,
that makes sense.
At 80 as he was at 65, so he's thinking he's going to live to be 100.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he will, maybe he won't. But that's how you get. That's how I do the business and referrals. If I didn't get referrals and rewrites, so I'm talking like rewrites when people add in coverage,
mm-hmm.
like the guy in Eastern Kentucky that sent me. She had 7,000, wanted to up it to 10.
Mm-hmm.
I call that a rewrite.
Right.
and I get a lot of those where people, I wrote them 10,000 or 7,500 5 years ago, and now they want to make it more.
Yeah, you want to add on some coverage.
And they'll call, and like I said, a lot of times you go back and they have bought something, an old American in the meantime, and so I can roll it all together.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
And they, it's funny, it's the way this business works, and say, but it's it's a good business.
Yeah,
I've got no complaints about it. It's and I had a lady from, I think she was in California that called me a week or so ago. Got my number, looked my number up. I guess she saw one of the interviews. I think she said with Dave. And she was just, I'm glad I don't recruit and have to deal with that. I talked to Scott about it. Man, do y'all get these kind of calls? But this girl was just, first she was going on about how enjoying the work. And no, I mean, I enjoy my work, but I don't do this for fun. She was talking about, the fun of, I said, no, it's not fun.
Right.
It's not what I call fun. And she's, well, that's very discouraging to me. No, don't enjoy. I said, I don't know what to tell you about that. I said, I enjoy my work, yes. But if you think if I win $10 million in the lottery this weekend, if you think I'm going to be setting the kitchen tables next week,
yeah, right. I mean, it is a job at the end of the day,
See, I don't know. And then she was going on. She had a couple of companies, and she asked me what I thought. And the couple of companies she had, and I said, no, I wouldn't lead with those. But she had leads, but she hadn't done anything. And she said, well, she asked me about KSKJ, and I said, yeah, you ought to get them. And if you can, I think you need to call, Scott. And she'd already tried to call them direct.
Right.
Paul was on vacation. And I said, well, Paul's going to refer you to somebody else anyway.
Right.
And I said, I don't know if you can get them or not, but if you can, you should. But and then she was going on, well, I'm going to wait until I can get these other companies. I said, no, this is on a Friday. I said, no, if I was you, I would get on the phone in the morning with those leads you have, set appointments for Monday, and go work. Well, if these companies I have aren't good,
doesn't matter.
Go work. You don't know if they're good. You don't even know if you don't even know if anybody's going to want you to write an application anyway.
Right.
You got to get out there and work.
Yeah.
And she just kept on then about, no, I'm going to go ahead and wait. And I said, you ever heard the term analysis paralysis? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, then when I say you have it, you already know what I'm talking about. And she said, yeah. And I've been told that before. And I said, okay.
Oh, there you go.
And and I had a call a week before that with some guys just going on about how he can sell everything, you know. He said, I know you don't, he told me, I know you don't want, he said, would you take me and my friend and let us be under you? And they are guys, they're talking about coming to FEA.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, but under us, and we'll pay you. You know, I don't care what. And I said, no, don't.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking, talking to this guy, he may be a good one to have. But I said, no, thanks. I'll help you. If you get into a place somewhere and you need some help, and I said, I'll help you. But no, I'm not going to be your upline. Don't want that. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole, like, the longer I am in this and I watch people go through the cycle of going to decide to go build a team and then going out to go build that team and then watching the fallout of them deciding that they want to go build that team, like it's a different thing. Like, if you're going to be building a team, you got to go and just do just that. It's a whole different
tell
thing.
Tell you what to do, but if I were your age, I might have a different take on it than I do now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about this before. You know,
Yeah.
My plan is I'm doing this 3 more years.
Right.
Not even what I do now for 3 years. So I'm certainly not going to take on agents now.
Right.
And but you know, at your age, you know, I might, you know, be looking at it a little different and might be more enticed to get back into the Medicare, because I still do supplements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got out of the Medicare Advantage basically because of the MIPA,
Mm-hmm.
but also that forced the 2 companies that cost WellCare and Coventry
Mm-hmm.
to leave this area, and they were my 2 primary companies.
Right.
And so I kind of didn't stay with the Medicare Advantage, but you know, I'm preaching to the choir here. You know, Medicare Advantage is a natural cross sell.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've heard you say probably 80% or 90% of our people are qualified, not just for Medicare Advantage, but also for an SEP.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Easily.
Like I said that earlier, the people
Yeah.
that we have they're getting extra help somehow, and so forth. It goes back when I was doing Medicare Advantage. SEP meant it was continuous all year round. I understand the rules are now it's quarterly.
Yeah, it's not as good as it was even just a year or 2 ago. But
I'm not versed in the rules of today. I mean, I'm versed in the rules enough that I can guide people to who they need to go talk to and what questions they need to ask when they talk to. It's like their caseworker or down at the welfare office or something. And so many people qualify for extra help that aren't getting it.
Yeah.
And I'll just write that on paper sometime. Next time you're in that office, ask if you qualify for extra help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're going to have to go through a ton of paperwork.
But it's worth it.
But the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to tell you no.
Yeah.
And you don't have it now.
Right. And if you do qualify, I mean, you get a ton of benefits that you wouldn't get otherwise.
And if I wasn't planning on winding down, I probably would get back into Medicare Advantage at this point. And because the guy I refer all the Medicare Advantage clients to a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's retiring next year too. And
yeah,
I mean, I'll pick up some when you know. But one thing he didn't do, like even for this year, because Aetna has a Medicare, you know, Aetna never would get into Medicare Advantage. Now they have. Now they are.
Yeah, right.
But he didn't contract with them, and as I understand, they've got a pretty good plan in this area. And so I can't even refer people to him for that because he didn't contract with them because they didn't want to fool with it.
Yeah. And, well, if you're getting ready to retire, I see why. I mean, it's just one more thing you got to do to be able to keep your renewals for the rest of your life. You know why?
He was going to retire a few years ago, when he was 62. And then, he realized that his renewals would put him over, what you're allowed to make. And then you get taxed
Right.
$1.02.
Right. So he needs to not
work
retire until
he's the age now where he can make as much as he wants over that. So he's going to semi-retire. He's not going to. I'm sure he'll take all the business that comes to him.
Right. But he's going to stop prospecting.
He's not going to buy any leads. He's not going to, and so I would almost do that. And I was tempted. Travis and I talked about it. We were tempted a couple of years ago when Humana was doing that AOR thing to contract just for that. But we kept thinking, surely they're not going to allow that. Surely they're going to stop this. And well, they finally did.
They did, yeah.
They did.
Kind of abruptly without.
They go on for way longer than I ever thought they would.
Yeah, no, it lasted for a good long time.
And I've never been a Humana fan, and I wish I was, because they're a Kentucky-based company.
Mm-hmm.
And but if I was doing Medicare Advantage, I wouldn't pick them up. So that would put me behind the 8 ball a bit, because they're pretty big in this area.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of choices here, and Humana's big on it, but I'm a Frank Statsny disciple, and in Medicare, and Frank, and he always say he didn't become an independent agent to be a butt boy for CMS. And while he never did Medicare Advantage, and I don't know if Frank was still alive, if he would have softened his position now because of how things are.
Yeah.
But he was a med-sup guy but now Frank sold about as much final expense as people who say they're full-time final expense agents.
Really? Just based on
a cross sell.
Using Medicare as the entry.
Save them $100 a month
on
their Medicare, and write them a $50 a month final expense, and he never prospected for final expense.
Just all off the cross sell from his med subs.
Cross sell. It's an easy. I'm sure that's an easy cross sell.
Yeah.
If you're leading with Medicare to do it, although a lot of Medicare agents don't do it.
No. Yeah, and I'm not really sure why. I'm talking with an agent right now who has had an amazing first year of Medicare. Like, he's a Medicare Advantage agent first, and he contacted me because he wanted to get involved in doing final expense sales, and he'd watched the YouTube channel and reached out. And he wrote, I want to say 300 to 350 people in his first year of doing Medicare, and his wife's in the business also, and she's got another 100 to 200 people that she enrolled in her first year. I mean, so between the two of them, they've in 1 year put together a very nice book of business with a pretty strong renewal income. And he was saying he wants to, how do I go about, doing life insurance sales off that? And they're all his clients. I told him, just call them. If you can, you'll be able to sell 1 out of 3 of them. They all are going to need life insurance at some point. And if they have life insurance, you're their Medicare agent. They'll probably be happy to let you review what they've got. They
probably do have life insurance.
They probably do have life insurance. And then you've got you've got a ton of business just right there. Just go see them,
It looks like, the Medicare, my book of Medicare is about 200. And yeah, most of them I've sold life insurance. And all of them have life insurance, and they when you talk to them, and most of them paying too much, and they're more than willing to, you've helped them with their biggest concern.
Yeah.
Anybody that doesn't know that healthcare and Medicare is the biggest concern to seniors does not work this market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I
even now they'll call their supplement their Medicare Advantage plan. They'll call it supplement.
It's always their supplement.
But that's still the number one thing on their mind.
Oh, absolutely.
And the taking care of the burial is an afterthought almost. And
Yeah.
I better do that too. but their health care and their prescription drugs is just, is paramount. And and that's what's made me think a few times about maybe dusting off my Medicare Advantage skills.
Yeah.
And it's not sales, and that's where a lot of them have a problem. What we do is sales.
Yeah.
And that's not sales.
It's a completely different thing.
Service work. It's knowing the plans, knowing how it works.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. It's an advantage to me still, even though I don't sell the Medicare Advantage anymore, but being versed in those rules of,
Yeah.
Of like what counts, what doesn't, what you can get, what you can't get, knowing what a QMB plus is versus an LIS versus a QI1. And what the levels are to qualify for each one, and the different things, and who you need to speak with about them.
Absolutely.
And having that knowledge is a huge help.
Knowing their caseworkers,
to even if I'm not writing that business.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy I refer to Medicare Advantage to, so if he is a straight arrow, he would never. He writes life insurance too. He would never write one of my clients on life that I refer to.
Absolutely.
Not in any form or fashion would he, if they talk to him about life, you call Don about that.
Right.
Yeah. And he thinks he's got the better end of the deal. And he refers all his life. He doesn't write life at all anymore. I said he can. When he has one of his clients that I didn't send to him that knows life insurance, he sends them to me. I think I have the better end of the deal. He thinks he does. So it's probably why it works.
Yeah. Everybody's happy. You're both doing the part that you want to do.
And he is but he will write. He'll write their prescription drug plans too. And go see them about,
Yeah.
Standalone prescription drug. I can tell him that, hey, I said, I'll do it. I'll tell you, look, if you want me to, I'll help people with .gov and stuff. If my clients, I will.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And I said, or I've got a guy that would like, and most people want to talk to someone. So, and he's willing to do it. He'll even drive to see people. He'll drive to just write their prescription drug. He's very diligent, about checking their meds and everything. And he's, so it's worked good to do it. I hate the fact that he's going to shut it down.
Yeah. No, it's hard to find guys like that.
I try to refer those folks to Scott and Joe.
Yeah.
A lot of them, but they don't go to homes.
Right. People go to them.
No, they want people to come into their office. And I've been able to tell some people to do that. Tell them this is where their office is. If you would like to, if you don't mind going there and do it. Yeah. And because that's good work if you can get it. Have them come to you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's some of the homes, But I read. Of course, you read it to form too. I don't go into so many bad homes that I hear described by other agents. But it seems like the worst homes you hear descriptions are, all that talk comes from people who aren't final expense agents.
Right.
And they, I might have sat in cat piss sometime, but I don't know if I did.
Right.
Now I've certainly smelled it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The litter box, and some smells, and I've gone into some, pretty rough homes and that thing, but not to the extent that I hear it described.
For the most part, it's not nearly as bad as people like to say it is. I mean, I've been in some pretty rough places, but more often than not, I've been into just perfectly normal, everyday, regular people's houses. Like, that's most of who I go see. It's just what you would think of as a normal, everyday person's house. You know?
But we grew up very poor, so
Mhm.
90. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, I've got a client in the home that I grew up in from the time I was probably 5 years old through the 6th grade. I've got a finance client that lives in that home, and she's on Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny when I went there to the first time I met her and went there, and I told her, I said, "Hey, is there a hole? In this bedroom back here, is there a hole in the closet door?" And she said, "Well, yeah," because I thought, by this time somebody fixed it.
Right, yeah.
And she said, "Well, yeah, how do you know that?" I said, "Well, I drilled that hole." And it was my fort kind of, it was my lookout hole.
Right.
But I got in big trouble over that hole. But it's still there to this day.
That's amazing.
And so, I grew up in the homes I'm going to.
Yeah.
And so I do, it seems like my mom kept it nicer than this lady does, but that's still, that's where I came from.
Right.
So they don't bother me.
No.
With that. And, and I know one thing I think helps me with that, with dealing with people is, I got into insurance later in life, and I got into it by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Worked in the factory, worked with that, blue collar, and accidentally fell into this. And so I have a different perspective on it than a life in the insurance business does. A silver spooner that got into it as a legacy from his daddy was.
Right.
I'm not doing anything wrong with that, but I have a different outlook than that guy does.
Right. It's a different thing.
And I have a different take on insurance companies than that guy does.
Mm-hmm.
I got into it with a guy here, State Farm guy, over a replacement a few years ago, and he was just, "You guys going around doing that stuff, and he would tell me, I don't care if you placed it anyway." I don't know why he was so upset if he didn't care. But he was telling me he had the largest book in the state of Kentucky. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. I know he does very well.
Right.
But his daddy started that.
Sure.
He came in. His dad was my insurance agent.
Wow.
And and I knew the guy. I'd known the guy all my life. And he was condescending over the phone and dismissing what we do. You guys run, we don't do replacements. I'm like, "You can't do replacements. You're too damn high." And he said, just kind of, how they are, how they're dismissive to.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I finally told him, I said, "I'll tell you," he was when he was saying he had the biggest book and something. I said, "Well, Perry," "I'll tell you what, you might be telling the truth. I know you do very well." I said, "I'll tell you one damn thing about my book compared to yours." He said, "What?" I said, "I built my damn book. You got yours from your daddy."
Yeah.
End of conversation.
Yeah.
And I just saw him. That was 3-4 years ago. I just saw him at a wedding. Like I said, I've known him all my life. I saw him at a wedding, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, let me have one of your cards." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, there's a whole lot of people that come in that I can't place.
Hey.
That maybe you can."
No, you definitely can.
Well, he hasn't sent me anybody since that conversation.
Well,
That was just in November, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll see.
I don't know if it's in my card for another reason, but that was his story. That's about as much as apology as I can expect from the guy, though. But they, as a final expense agent, you get used to that.
Yeah.
We're the bottom feeders, I guess, is what they say.
Yeah. People love to look down on the final expense agents. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear people say stuff like that, or are you still selling final expense? Aren't you tired of knocking on people's doors and
sitting in catfish?
Yeah.
You get tired of that?
Yeah. Nah.
The also the thing they get to about, I even hear from other final expense about having to beat people to the bank.
Yeah.
So I don't experience that either. Occasionally maybe, but that's not a driving force to me.
Mm-mm.
Social Security billing is not a huge deal to me, and seems to be to some.
I think, like so many things, it's as much in your head as it is anything else. I mean, I will say personally, I write one company a lot that does Social Security billing and does it very well. And I write one company a lot that doesn't do Social Security billing at all, doesn't even do Wednesday billing, doesn't do anything, and my persistency with them is identical.
Right. Same here.
I mean, it's fine. And if that's something that you feel makes you more confident when you go in to sell somebody, that it's going to be better because they do that, great. I use it as a selling point for the clients that I sell with Social Security billing. I say, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. And for the people that don't, I don't bring it up, and they don't care. That's fine.
I am 100% convinced that's the only way to go if they're on Direct Express.
Oh yeah. With Direct Express, it has to be because then they are going to want to take their money out in cash, and then once it's out, it's out. You can't put more money back in.
No, I wouldn't write a Direct Express company that doesn't do Social Security billing.
No, neither would I. I don't. I don't know why any companies that take Direct Express don't do it that way. It's very surprising.
It seems like the only one that doesn't is probably Gerber.
Yeah, and then maybe it doesn't matter so much.
There are some companies that claim to do Social Security billing that don't.
Don't really.
But they'll argue with you that they do. But they don't.
Yeah. So we do have one last question, and this has been like an hour and 20 minutes already. So we may.
Longer than we intended.
Yeah. But so I don't know if we want to maybe save this for another time. But there is a question of the main company that you write is KSKJ Life, and they are a fraternal. And before that, the main company that you wrote was Royal Neighbors of America, and they're also a fraternal. And you are on record in the past as having said that all other things being equal, you would rather write a policy than a certificate. But here you are writing certificates more than policies, and there are people out there who have very seriously negative things to say about any and all fraternal companies ever in the history of mankind. And that you should never write a fraternal, and that you should absolutely never replace a non-fraternal policy with a fraternal certificate. And people want to know what you think about that. I was specifically told I would really love to see somebody actually press JD on that issue. I don't know what that means because I don't have the issue with it that other people have, but maybe you can take a couple minutes.
The person who feels that way about fraternal should not write them.
And they don't.
And,
so I mean,
yes, they do.
Oh well.
One of the biggest complainers of FEX and especially Travis in particular about that has Royal Neighbors right on his website.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah, they kind of but that's normal. That's not. But no, I did. I have. That's something things change over the years.
Yeah.
And yes, years ago, I did say, they used to say that, told rural neighbors that if all things being equal, I would rather write a policy than a certificate. Um, and I did feel that way. But of course, like I also qualified that with, very seldom are all things equal. And but today I'm 180 from that. Today, all things being equal, I'd rather write the fraternal.
Interesting. And why is that?
Because I have seen over the year, I gravitate to companies. I think it's something I said at the first meeting you ever came to, that symposium, that I gravitate to companies that make my job easier, not harder.
Yep.
And the rural neighbors made my job easier. KSKJ Life makes my job easier. And I'm not talking about, first off, they're giving the client great value. But besides that, they make my job easier on servicing the client. And the company that I said would not give the agent the info is not KSKJ or they but I've also seen over the years with the companies that, and I get the fraternal argument, and probably years ago, I probably used it against some of them too. Wouldn't do that today. And because I don't think it's a bad thing. I've actually become to thinking that the maintenance reserve is a good thing. It wouldn't be a good thing if you had to use it.
Right.
It's a good thing that it's there.
Right.
I saw that with, since I've been in this business, I've seen 3 companies that wrote policies go into receivership or bankruptcy or so forth. And one company that was my primary company when I was writing term went into receivership. And they made it through. They ended up not going bankrupt, and nothing was done. But it took 5 or 6 years to get through receivership. Now they paid commissions during that time. They paid claims, but people could not access their cash. I never sold annuities, but the people who had annuities with that company were the biggest complainers.
Sure.
Now, I'm not sure exactly what the details was on that because I don't sell annuities, but apparently they couldn't get their annuity money other than RMD.
Yeah.
And it went through all that time, and it took that time. Well, if something like that happened with KSKJ or rural neighbors, they could handle it just like that.
Right.
They, both of them are 125-year-old companies. They've been through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, all this. They've never had to use it because they're physically sound, and they're doing it. Now, maybe if you had those little small fraternal, of course, in insurance company, small is relative.
Right.
A $1 billion company is considered small. Me and you, $1 billion company is a hell of a less company.
Right.
And so, you might have to look at it different in that, but I know the folks at KSKJ. I know how physically sound they are, how physically conservative they are. And the same with rural neighbors when I was with them. And I'm not saying those are the only 2 out there, but those are the 2 I know the best. And but just in how they handle things and claims and service and the way they treat the clients, the way they treat the agents, I would rather write them. I got companies I write now that I would not, even if they're close in price. I don't feel that they're easy for me to work with. That they're doing this thing. So but I'll tell anybody, if you are uncomfortable with the fraternal, don't write them.
Yeah.
Do not write them. I would not write them if I was uncomfortable with them. I have a policy with KSKJ myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a policy with my wife. She has a policy with rural neighbors and with foresters. I also have a fidelity and guarantee policy on myself. I have a Shenandoah Life. I got an surety policy. I'm not any more concerned about the KSKJ and foresters and rural neighbors than I am the others.
Right.
I don't sit and look at those policies and say, maybe if I'm going to get rid of one of these, let's get rid of those fraternals first.
Right.
So it's what you're comfortable with. And now, if one of these doomsday prophets things were to come true, I might have to eat those words.
Right.
But I don't think that is going to happen. And you never hear of anyone that can tell you that all this stuff they say happens. They'll know. It's kind of in the horse business. You'd always say, well, Uncle Jake down at the feed store had a cousin that had an uncle that knew a friend that said this is what happens.
Right.
And that's in the horse business, and they're saying that. But now it's almost the same way with this, that nobody knows that they were on. But even the one I saw one that they brought up about a company years ago that did an assessment, but even on that one, every person that died, they waived the assessment. Now, are they guaranteed to do that? No. That's we're big on guarantees, in this business. Sure. I mean, that's why we don't sell term for burial policies. So right. I get it, and if you want to make that an issue, then make it an issue. The biggest non-issue though is the state guarantee fund.
Right.
Because there is no such thing. State guarantee fund. There's legislation. There's regulations on the books.
Right.
There is no pile of money sitting there, and it's not even law. It's an insurance. It's not like the FD. If people compare it to the FDIC.
Oh gosh, no.
FDIC is law.
Yeah.
Of course. Me coming from the union, being a union guy, and in negotiations and stuff, you've got the PBG, for the PBGC, Pension Benefits Guarantee Corporation, is law.
Yeah,
but it's not 100% funded either. And
right.
And companies are allowed to raid.
Oh, really?
Because they're allowed to amortize, and a lot of this has changed since I've been in negotiations. So the framework of people still working, you were allowed to fund that over 25 years. Your PBGC guarantees for retirees, if they're already retired, you had to fund it within 10 years. So back years ago, companies would overfund that. Well, as you got into funds, they found that they could raid to only what they were guaranteed. And so companies have done that.
Yeah.
And so, when you start talking about all that kind of stuff, and I'm at the long way from what we're talking about here, but it's all the same principles. But the state guarantee fund is insurance companies. And what they're doing is if that company, say that company I was talking about that came through receivership, had they not, then the companies would have to, all the companies in the state would have to contribute, that would be assessed like a fraternal to handle that company's benefit. But now it hasn't happened. It never happened in Kentucky. even though the largest insurance company in the United States was in Kentucky. That's why we have so many laws in Kentucky about insurance and replacement. But even that company was sold out, was piecemealed, and it never went to the guarantee fund. So they didn't have to assess. But say that company that didn't make it, say they didn't make it through the receivership after 5 years, what would have happened then is they would have started assessing those companies. I guarantee you those companies, before they paid a dime, would have said, no, wait a minute, they haven't exhausted all avenues yet.
Right. Yeah.
And would have made them, they would have fought it.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they'd end up having to pay later, but they would have drug it out even more years.
Oh, yeah. Forever and ever.
Before they paid. And that's why I say a fraternal will take care of it just like that.
Yeah.
But if you don't agree with that, don't.
Nothing says that you have to sell a fraternal company if you don't.
Nobody's saying you have to, but I would, and the same thing comes to, we're not talking about the company ratings or anything either, but I've seen how these companies work. I've seen companies bastardize their final expense product in the name of an A rating. So I used to be the same. I used to not want to write. I was going A rated.
Right.
Took Travis years talking to me about that to get away, from that thinking, and it was actually about Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying, you should write Oxford, and now they're B, and they're not fraternal,
No.
but I had it, and I changed. They finally, no, I'm not that way anymore on that. Your opinions change over the year as you see things. And I've seen that companies will bastardize their final expense product to keep that A rating for their other products. And so that's why I'm almost to the point now that on final expense, I like the companies that aren't rated at all. That means they're not buying that rating.
Right.
Rating doesn't mean anything except you bought it.
Right.
It's like the Better Business Bureau.
Yes.
They want $600 a year from you to give you a good rating. And it doesn't matter if you're good or not.
No.
You'll pay them $600 a year, you will get a good review if somebody checks you out through the Better Business Bureau.
Right.
That's another scam. Now, I guess if you were a crook and you keep doing stuff, they'll kick you out of the Better Business Bureau.
Sure.
But
yeah.
But probably not if you'll keep paying the $600. It's more about the fee.
Right.
Than the your continuing education every 2 years.
Right.
Fee.
Yeah. Yeah. Just making sure that
they want that fee.
Yeah.
This is an even numbered year, so I've got to do my continuing education this year.
Yep.
They're more worried about that fee than they are the.
Oh yeah. Than whether or not you've actually learned anything.
What I made on the test.
Yeah. They don't care.
And but that's just how government works, though, and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
This is like when you're doing work at your house and you have to have something inspected. If it's electrical or plumbing or something.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they don't even come in the house.
Right.
I had a water heater put in a few years ago. It had to be inspected. We're Total Electric. I don't know if that was why, but the plumber that came and did it, and he said he had to, we got to pay him $40.
Mm-hmm.
Pay for the sticker. And the guy came out here and came to my driveway, and the plumber was here, and he went out there and talked to him, and he said, well, did you do this? They asked him a couple of questions. The guy said, yeah. And he said, okay. He said, I need $40. I wrote him a check for $40, and he handed the sticker to the plumber. And said, would you stick that on the water heater for me? Never got out of his truck.
Nice.
I'm sure the guy I used was legit and it was installed properly.
Right.
I don't know if it was or not.
Amazing.
Other than he told him.
Right.
And that's how. So, and that's really basically what your state guarantee fund is something to make you feel good.
Yeah.
if you need it. And now I have that large IMO that's 100 miles from me. You know, they train their agents to sell against fraternal. And that's something that they, you know, and I have to battle that regularly. And they, I hadn't lost one to them yet, but they're kind of dumb about what they're teaching them. But that same company, that same IMO, has probably a dozen agents writing KSKJ.
Woohoo. So, what are you going to do?
And so, you know, it's just kind of use it if you can. And look, I'm not opposed to anybody making a living. And if you can replace mine and you do it honestly, more power to you.
Yeah.
But if you tell them stuff that aren't true, one of those guys told them that it wasn't even real insurance; it was co-op. And
Well, that's interesting. That's a new take. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, he replaced 2 KSKJ.
Yeah.
$20 a month more each.
Yeah.
And of course, I got them back.
Right.
They're still back today, but he told him it was just a co-op, you know, and then of course his story was that that's not what he told him.
Well, of course not.
Because that works in your favor too when that happens. You know, when they say no, then people know. I mean, there's nothing you can do to them when they deny. But but the people know. Yeah. I know what the guy sat here and told us.
Right.
He's lying now, and
that doesn't ever look good.
But I discuss. I mean, I do tell people. I've never sold to fraternals. I didn't tell people it was fraternal. You know, and then you know what a fraternal is. You know, because we're required to, and especially with that IMO.
Well, yeah.
Following me, I better be telling people.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I don't,
you want them to be prepared.
He didn't tell us this.
Yeah.
And so I have to, and it's the same thing with you know, I've never sold the KSKJ either. We didn't discuss the Christian part of it.
Same deal.
Never happened. And you know, and people say that you don't do that too. Well, talk to any client. Ask them about but it's not a problem here.
No, I can imagine it's probably never a problem.
Yeah, we're in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
There's been 3 people. I've been leading with KSKJ I'm into my 5th year with them now. And there has been 3 people.
Yeah.
That said no. No. Don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
If that's how it's got to be, I don't want it.
All right. And, plenty of other good companies out there.
And one of them was really funny about it. And I actually thought it was an excuse because she was a referral.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a referral from a client of mine that they met in church. And so when I go see her, and we're talking about that, and no, hell no, they can't ask me that. And okay, and she said, her thing was, she said she was more upset the fact that they asked you rather than the fact that they did it.
Right.
None of them did it.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that's just her way. She wants to get rid of me.
Right.
And I wrote her with another company. Still a client to this day.
Huh.
It wasn't an excuse.
Yeah. Right.
And,
that's funny.
And she has referred me to people too the same way, and still has that policy. But to her, that was an issue. But it's happened 3 times. in 5 years that someone had an issue with that. Most time I get the opposite.
Right. They're happy that they're Christian, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And for people watching this who are not familiar with KSKJ, the reason JD brings that up is it's a requirement with KSKJ to have a policy with them. You have to either yourself be baptized as a Christian or be married to somebody who is baptized as a Christian. And that's part of their fraternal contract, that all their members are either themselves or married to somebody who's been baptized.
Yeah.
Which in Kentucky, I'm assuming is not a big problem and is probably, like you said, something
I like it.
Yeah.
I had a guy, so I still say to this day, guy wrote, he was saved him $20 a month on the same coverage. I'm only going to do this because they're Christian. I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't care if that's your reason for going with it.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you, if they were $20 more, he wouldn't have cared one bit.
Right.
The $20 savings had more to do with it than the Christian. But his thing was, it's because they're Christian. I like that. I'm doing it just because of that.
Yeah. Whatever you got to do to justify it.
Yeah.
All right. So we are an hour and 45 now. So I'm going to say we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I'm going to try and put this on as one long video. I actually may run into YouTube limits. They may actually force me to chop this one up. But I will make it into not 20 small little chunks. We'll let it be a couple of bigger pieces. Maybe I can get it into only 2 parts. But thank you for coming on again and talking, JD. And it's always good to talk to you. And I will probably be, let's see, the last time we talked, we were getting ready to go see each other in the Caribbean. And I think we're 4 weeks away from going to St. Kitts with KSKJ now.
About 6 weeks.
About 6 weeks away. 6 weeks away from going to St. Kitts. So,
5 weeks, I guess it's now.
Yeah.
It's sneaking up on it, isn't it?
It is. It's coming quick. It's the week of Valentine's Day.
That's when we come home.
Yeah, right.
We leave on February 7th, so
yeah, it's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So see you soon. But
that's good to be in the Caribbean in February.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a good time. It's a good time to be there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will see you soon. But thanks for coming on again. Really, really appreciate it. And we'll talk more later.
All right. Take care, Nick.
See ya.